Looking to enhance the appeal and performance of your gym with state-of-the-art equipment? Look no further than the Gym Administrator. Founded by Sal Corrente, professional wrestling manager, promoter, and author of the great book Bruno Sammartino, the autobiography of wrestling's living legend, available on Amazon.com, the Gym Administrator will spot you on that final rep and assist you every step of the way from purchase through installation, whether it be strength training, cardiovascular training, or performance enhancement. The Gym Administrator works with a wide array of leading vendors and suppliers, carefully selected to meet the diverse needs of your clientele. Service the way you remember it. Contact us at 914-494-1066 or visit our website at thegymadministrator.com, as well as all social media platforms. The Gym Administrator. All your fitness needs under one roof. Scan the barcode at the bottom of the screen to get started today.
All right, welcome back to Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast. Monte The Pharaoh, only seen here out of Tin Mirror Studios, out of Kings Park, Long Island, and across the United States of America. The star of the show, Mr. Jimmy Pharaoh. Jimmy, how are you?
How are you, kind sir? What's going on?
So it's funny,
Back
Jimmy,
again.
when we're going to go live, I'm muted, you're muted, but and I was going to say, we look like we're going Blairless, right? Instead of like women go braless, we were going to go Blairless, right? But then I see Brian come on. I see Brian come on. But the bad thing that sucks is like I can't hear what you guys are talking about. But the one thing I love though is I love like looking at the rooms everybody's shooting out of, because I'm shooting out of a studio which is just black. You're at a Wahoo. You're at a Wahoo Saloon, and then I'm checking out Brian's background there. He's got like Orndorff. He's got a picture of him and Brunzel. It's cool shit, man. Cool shit. Being able to look, right, Brian? That's a cool room you got there.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it so much. There's a lot of memories on the walls. Paul was my very best friend for 40 something years, 42 years. Amazing. And July 12th will be 3 years. And wow, 3 years ago, I had an unbelievably terrible July. My best friend, Paul Orndorff, on the 12th. My golden retriever of 12 years on the 14th. My son on the 16th, my oldest son. Got osteomyelitis in my spine and had to learn to walk again. And, people that think that they have problems, man, don't ever give up. You have no problems, my friends. Thank God for every single day. That's, I'm not going to preach to you. I just want to say that. God bless. It's your show.
That's a word of the, God bless, and Christ is great. Question, now you're saying that, right? So I'm not going to say you recently found Christ, but you've become more involved in Christ within the last, I'd say, 10 years, right? Is that fair to say?
No, sir.
How long have you been a follower of such devotion?
Man, if you want to hear this story, when I was 12 years old, I went to Big People's Church in Gary, Indiana for the first time. And I'd never heard a pastor preach. It was a Lutheran church. And I'm sitting there, I'm used to, looking at pictures and coloring and talking about Jesus and the color and the disciples. Well, anyway, this pastor goes, the power of prayer. He preached on the power of prayer, and I'm glued to him, and he's saying, If you pray righteously and earnestly and you're a good person, God is going to answer your prayer. It might not be tomorrow. It might not be today. It might not be for a year from now, but you keep praying, you keep knocking, and that prayer will be answered. Wow. 12 years old. Can you imagine that? I mean, wow. I went home and I said, wow, do I want to have a Corvette? Maybe a blue Corvette before I prayed. I was going to pray. Maybe I could be have $1 million. And I said, no, they'd take the $1 million away. And then I said, well, I know I want to be Superman. I could save the world. And I prayed that prayer, guys, for almost a year till Billy Kempinski. We were walking down Arizona Street. The ground was in Gary, Indiana. The ground was frozen in the middle of winter. He had the little portable jukebox and Green Tambourine was playing. And I didn't really want to share this prayer, but Billy was my close friend. And I said, Billy, I said, I've been praying this prayer. You know, I'm going to be Superman. Believe me, I'm going to be Superman. And he laughed at me and he said, oh, man, you'll never be Superman. He's a fictitious character. He leaps tall buildings with a single bound. He runs the ropes like a speeding locomotive and all this kind of stuff. He wears a costume. And man, phew, he laughed at me then, but be careful what you pray for because it just might happen. You know, I got to wear that costume. I got to hit the ropes like a speeding bullet. I got to leapfrog a man with a single bound, and I had a 300-pound man jump on my chest, and I tell you that story right now. But no, Doris Atkinson really strengthened my belief in Christ. I lived with David for over a year, and she got me really strong in the Lord. And I have, you know, it just keeps my heart warm. I feel the Holy Spirit. I truly do. I'll testify on your show. You believe what you believe. I'm going to believe what I truly believe. And that's my testimony in a nutshell right there.
And we love it. But a tough question for you then. Let's put Orndorff on the shelf a little bit, all right?
Lay it on.
Orndorff lived a blessed life, good man, lived to an older age, but unfortunately you lost your son at a young age, and then clearly losing your retriever. It's not funny that you bring it up, but it's weird. We were just speaking a couple of shows ago. I just had to put down my father's dog, and we were discussing every time we put down animals, you look in their eyes and you're like, this isn't worth it. It's like, you know, you love I have a dog right now. When he goes, I don't even know what I'm going to do with myself. But my point to you, you strengthen God and you go through all these problems and then your health problems with your back. Do you feel like quitting sometimes? Like, God, you have forsaken, you've just left me barren here?
When I gave my son's eulogy inside of the church that my wife and I were baptized in 1996, I said, I had no idea I had osteomyelitis. I had so much pain that I was holding the tears back from pain. Nobody knows what osteomyelitis feels like unless you have the worst pain in the entire world. You look it up. It's worse than kidney stones. It's worse than childbirth. It's your bones are being eaten. My spine was literally being eaten. I lost 4 pounds of bone in all the way across my spine and my hips. But anyway, one of the things that I said is I do not blame God. It's not God's fault. My son is with you, Lord. My son is with God right now. I will never blame God. It's not for me to understand. I'm blessed to have this day. I'm blessed to be able to talk to Monte the Pharaoh. I'm just blessed in so many ways. And so, as down as you can be, as out as you can get, if you keep that faith and hope alive, it's amazing what can happen.
Jimmy,
Brian, can I ask you?
Go ahead,
I want to ask Brian on this because this to me is a very fascinating subject. When my mom always used to, I was raised in I'm adopted, but I was raised in a Jewish household, and my mom was very much a realist.
Mm-hmm.
And she used to tell me, well, bad things happen to good people. It's just the way it is sometimes. When I found Christ, I was in my early 30s, and I eventually became a church elder, but I remember my priest at the time, the pastor of the church, always saying to me, when bad things happen to good people, It's God's will. So I want to ask you, because I can tell that this is very, very pure with you, that this is the truth for you, and I can see it coming off of you. So I ask you, what is God's will?
Well, I'm not God to answer that. God has to create what we see, feel, and do. And I can't imagine what God imagines. And to put it kind of, I often pray, guys, uh, for wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, just like Solomon did. And you can't have understanding until you go through trials and tribulations. There's no way that you can have understanding, because wisdom, knowledge, and understanding are three succinct and different, totally different things wrapped up in one. You have to have knowledge. You get knowledge from books. You get understanding from events primarily. And you get wisdom from the culmination of how you take those events and you put them into action, into your life, into the knowledge of understanding that we're all human and created equal. And you've got to love each other and care for each other. And if we all did that, man, this would be a great place. I'm not going to rob somebody. Hey, I found a $10 bill here, sir. I think you dropped this. Because, I've done some, I'm not free of sin, brothers. Nobody is. We're all sinners. And by the way, my mother's Jewish. My mom's last name is Roth. Wow. But anyway, this is deep subject, guys. Never did this before on a podcast. And
yeah, this isn't the usual show, bro.
Say that I did it on Monte The Pharaoh.
Yeah.
Brian, I don't know if you remember, but when you were in our old studio, you were in with Brunzell, and if anyone remembers, the Killer Bees
yes, I do.
At the big event. Thank you. And COVID was just something people. I remember the show, and I watch it, and we were laughing, right? If you remember, we were like, "Oh, you got COVID? Oh, you just got a hand sanitizer." That ended up being a little bit of a mess for everybody, right? After all said and done. Before we get going here, I want to go over a news item. But before we even start, I think it's important for me and Jimmy to say, give us the opportunity to say thank you, Brian, as a wrestling fan, what you've done for the industry, what you've done for its fans. Again, we're just fans, but from what we know about you, the one time we met you, speaking to you right now, all we could say as fans is thank you for giving us the opportunity to love the sport as much as we did due to people like yourself and especially you. So thank you, Brian. Thank you very much.
Well, Abe, I really, really appreciate that. Jimmy, I appreciate being on your show, but I can't thank guys like you that give us the opportunity to tell our stories. We all hear it over and over, because without the wrestling fan, who are the greatest fans in the world, and I think we're wrestling fans. I think we're all biggest wrestling fans, and there's some of the best people you'll ever meet. You were talking about COVID. Jimmy and I were in New York. Brunsey and I were in New York just when COVID hit, when nobody really rang the bell, and it was line after line. And fortunately, Jimmy brought his hand sanitizer. I think we told you guys that in that story when we were on the show. Had that hand sanitizer on the first show. And I think that saved us. But yeah, I did get COVID when I was in the hospital with the osteomyelitis, but it was, what do you call that when you...
asymptomatic.
Asymptomatic. Thank you very much.
You got it.
Anyway, it's a gratitude all the way around, and I humbly appreciate your thank you.
And we love the fact that you're preaching the word of God. I think.
Well, Mike, I wanted to interject quickly. It's not just talking the talk; it's walking the walk. And Brian, I just want to say thank you for the stuff that you've done behind the scenes. That the internet has one bad headline, one sleazy headline after another. Yet I know for a fact that you've helped a lot of people with the CAC. So thank you for doing that.
I appreciate it, Jimmy. You know, I do this because, you know, they're all my colleagues, and like we're all connected. Even if you, in the territory days, if you didn't work in Portland, let's say, eventually you would come across and run into Roddy Piper and all the guys. I mean, we all worked in different territories and helped build the foundation of the business. So I feel like we're all just like family, you know. When I see the boys, I don't care who it is. I go up to Rock, hey, brother Dewey, how you doing, man? Hogan, love you, brother. I mean, Stinger, what a great Christian he is. Really, I mean, oh, but you know, these are people that, you know, they're friends, and but I love everybody. You know, I'm happy sitting here with you guys. You know, it's wonderful to do that. And you know, the
Right.
more people you get to meet and to talk to, I mean, you get a little more of that wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, guys. I appreciate it.
I want to hit a quick news item, guys. I want you both to weigh in on today.
Sure.
Shelley Duvall, actress of The Shining, in case you didn't know, in Nashville. She died at 75 after a slight illness, but she was suffering. Thoughts on Shelley Duvall before we get into our little interview here?
Brian, what do you remember about Shelley? We'll hit you first on this one.
Well, to be honest with you guys, I know you know, Shelley touched a lot of hearts. You know, so many people do, and it's, you know, it was a tragic thing. And as far as, you know, my thoughts of her, nothing specific, and nothing against Shelley. I was, you know, just into other things, I guess.
You were studying to be Superman.
Yes.
What do
there
you mean?
go.
You didn't see her in Popeye? Remember her in Popeye? That was awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
Popeye. Wait a minute. Is it my turn now?
Yeah, it's your
please?
turn. Go ahead.
Popeye. Oh, for Popeye. For God's sake. All right. Shelley Duvall, being a 13-year-old in 1980, as we both were, right, Mikey?
Yeah.
Seeing her trapped in a bathroom as an axe comes slamming through the door and in sticks Jack Nicholson. Here's Johnny. That movie is eternally a masterpiece, done by the great director Stanley Kubrick. But what most people don't know is Shelley Duvall was put through method acting, and it took a long time to film those scenes. And Kubrick was the kind of guy, Mike, could you picture getting up in the morning? Her role that day, all day, because he would take 35 takes, Mike, for one scene, was for her to scream and cry. And this would go on for like a month at a time, depending on where they were in the script. If there was a lot of screaming and crying, then she was going to have to do that for a while. It wrecked her. She could not handle that. She survived it, but basically after that, she never went through another role that put her through such emotional duress.
Well,
so her performance.
Listen, first of all, I still like her better in Popeye, so let's get that straight.
You are ridiculous.
And
You're comparing Popeye to The Shining.
And then
You're fired.
Kubek's best movie is Eyes Wide Shut, by the way.
Okay, all right. Well, what about a little Full Metal Jacket or a Clockwork Orange?
Full Metal Jacket's great for the first half. Second half, I'm not into. All right, let's get to the star of the show, Brian Blair.
Peace,
So, Brian, Brian,
unbelievable.
You make me think of when I first saw The Exorcist.
Oh boy,
got my driver's license.
Oh, that movie. To this day, Brian, you can call me whatever, like, you know, wimpy name you can think up. To this day, that movie gives me the creeps.
Oh, I was looking in my back seat. I had dropped my girlfriend off. You know, I'm looking in my back seat thinking that someone's going to jump out at me. That was a scare. After that, you know, I mean, I did watch The Shining, but, you know, it's not, and the acting was tremendous, but I just tried to stay away from, you know, scary movies.
Yeah.
You know,
in Japan, Abdullah the Butcher said to me, he said, he's my tag team partner, and we're in Shinjuku, and he says, Brian, let's go to the movies. I said, okay, let's go to the movies. Abby, he said, what are you going to see? You know, what do you want to see? And he said, let's go see this movie called Cannibal Holocaust.
Oh my God, that movie's insane.
Oh my, well, I said, Abdullah, I don't really like to see scary movies like that. You know, It doesn't
Mike,
do anything
Brian,
for
I'm sorry. Brian, I'm sorry. Mike, have you ever seen the movie he's talking about, Cannibal Holocaust?
Jimmy, I was just going to reveal to both of you that I refuse to. There's two movies I refuse to watch. One is The Exorcist,
Okay.
and the other one is The Last Temptation of Christ. I refuse to watch either one of those
All right.
movies. So yes, my answer is I've never seen that movie, and I never will.
Okay, Brian, I'm going to keep this clean, but to the viewers at home, a wiener gets cut off.
Oh, eaten.
Yeah, first they remove it though. It's a dude. Anyway, listen, we're gonna keep this as clean as possible. This movie is really, really bad. Oh my god!
But the story is that Abdullah talked me into going and calling me a sissy, and da da da.
Oh no!
He wound up after like I don't know, halfway through the movie, not even halfway through the movie. It was soon. He all of a sudden he hurled when he started seeing that stuff. He just hurled. He was sick. He said, "Oh, it was. I think it was the popcorn." I think he got so scared. I can see him shaking. He was. He just hurled it all over the. Oh God, it was horrible. Anyway,
Abdullah the Upchucker. Abdullah the Upchucker. Very good.
Abdullah the Upchucker.
Oh my God,
Brian. News has come out that Kevin Sullivan's not doing great at this point. We're praying for him. Can you talk to us a little about Kevin, the person, your relationship with him, and thoughts on Kevin Sullivan?
Well, first and foremost, I pray that he gets well. He's in a very tough situation right now, guys, and he does need everybody's prayers. I've known Kevin. Well, I started in Florida. Kevin was here. He's been my booker in places. He's got a tremendous mind. I've been with him all over the place, and I love Kevin. He's a wonderful guy, always funny. Comes to all the Cauliflower Alley Club events, and he's always he's a good guy. And then he's a brilliant psychologist in the ring. Kevin's highly intelligent. Being around J.J. Dillon and Eddie Graham and these masterminds for so long, Kevin just sucked it up because, he was a short guy that was stout, as you guys know, very stout, and that Boston brawler type, Kevin Sullivan. And, he got over with that. I mean, people didn't look at his stature, they at his size. They looked at whatever character Kevin Sullivan wanted to be. He was a master at our craft. And, I see it every day in the CAC. It's one of the most difficult things that I deal with day in and day out, from all different guys on my wall, House Brown, Kamala. I mean, I think of all the guys, that and the girls, you get close to them sometimes, and even when you're not real close to them from the road. But the CAC, I wound up talking to them because they need a little help or whatever, and I'm always there to pick somebody up when they're down. And it's sad. And then you bring it right here to Kevin Sullivan. It just keeps going and going. I just pray that Kevin kicks out, and he needs your prayers. He's a wonderful, wonderful human being.
Brian, do you think that Kevin should have gotten even more of a run as a booker? I know for a fact my partner thinks very, very highly of Kevin Sullivan, the booker. Do you feel that he almost was he denied more of a chance to be a booker in the big programs, with WCW? Like, should he have had more of a career as a booker?
I think probably only Kevin could tell you that from my angle.
Fair enough.
Looking at it.
Yeah.
Kevin certainly had he had everything it takes to be a good booker, but it's good to have a couple people to bounce ideas off. And Kevin's, it's like when you run anything, there can only be one chief in any successful business, in any podcast. There can only be one chief that calls the final shot. I mean, you talk about everything, you talk about it. I had Gold's Gyms. I had over 100 employees for 10 years. you go through that, and thank God that everything worked out great. But Kevin's the kind of guy that could reason with people, and I think he would have been a great booker. I think he, whether, he may have enjoyed doing what he was doing, because it wasn't like he had to ask anybody, for a job.
You were quite the football player. How upset were you when, I believe, if I have this wrong, correct me, but I believe the University of Tampa was your first choice and they closed their program. What was your feelings when that happened?
Well, I was heartbroken. I mean, I watched number 44, Paul Orndorff, and my good friend right up here, Freddie Solomon, from the University of
Wow.
Tampa. I was selling sodas.
Sure.
The only person that has beat Freddie Solomon's receiving records for the 49ers is Jerry Rice.
Right.
That's what an athlete that Freddie Solomon was. Unbelievable.
Oh, yeah.
And to watch him in college football, when you had John Matuzak, one time Leon McQuay, and Freddie Solomon, but Freddie was right under Leon's. He was like Leon McQuay was unbelievable at the University of Tampa. They were number one in the nation. I think that was 1970. I was just a baby. So anyway, I started selling sodas in the stadium later on, and when I was 13 years old, and I'd watch. I'd set my sodas down to watch the offense. And sometimes the defense, because Matuzak was a menace. It was a dynasty at the University of Tampa. They folded football. I wound up going to St. Leo College because everybody gave away their scholarships. Vince Gibson said, go to St. Leo College. Tilrow Morrison's there. God bless Tilrow. What a wonderful man. Coached at Alabama under Bear Bryant. And played club football there. And finally got a scholarship to Louisville, and wound up, leaving because I was getting $15 every 2 weeks for laundry money. And when that ran out, we'd hustle a little, pull this a guy on another guard on our team, Jerry Knoll from Tennessee. He was a great pool player. So I'd pool my little $15. My mom would send me $10 a week. It was White Castle money, whatever. We pulled that together to get through. But then my first paycheck, I accidentally, when I was getting stretched with Matsuda and all that third summer, there's an opening, and Eddie Graham asked me if I want to referee a match, and I said, sure. And after that, he said, somebody got hurt. Would you like to start now? And they hadn't even smartened me up yet. I'm still getting stretched. So
well, you're eating. Wait a minute. You're getting stretched because you're eating White Castle. I can't get over the fact that you were eating White Castle. What's going on here?
This was after.
I hope so.
Yeah. No, that's a good way to get stretched. You eat too much White Castle.
oh boy, you ain't kidding. Oh man, you mentioned Matsuda. Got to ask you, are the stories accurate about Matsuda and Matsuda and how rough he was and stuff? But I really want to get to the story about Hogan. Okay, now you can correct me if you are walking into "We Love Hulk Hogan" territory when you come on this show. All right, so that's my disclaimer. But it irritates me that those who hate Hogan, the internet warriors that hate the Hulk Hogan type, the E in entertainment, oh, he's not a wrestler. Did he or did he not pay his dues just like everybody else did back in the day? Is the Matsuda story true that he busted Hogan's leg? And did Hogan come up, and at least somewhat pay his dues compared to the way the internet haters make him out to be? Your thoughts on all of that, if you can. I'm sorry.
Sure. First off, you're talking to somebody that loves Terry like a brother. I mean, we're a phone call away. If I call right now, he's going to pick up the phone or call me right back. And he's one of my very, very closest friends. And so I'm obviously a Hulkamaniac too. And he to say that he broke in easy, those people have no freaking clue. No clue. Not even a inch of a clue. I mean, he went through the whole that summer before I went to college. No, actually, he went through the whole summer, um, right before I went to Bill Watts's territory, and he had something special about him. I used to sneak into the band when at Ruckus at the other place, this bar in Tampa, and watch him play. He had his mama's earrings on and high heels, and I mean, he was a freak. It looked fantastic. But uh, Matsuda, Briscoe. I mean, so many other people came in and tried to not hurt Terry, but uh, run him off almost. Because that was the thing in Tampa. You try to push these guys until they leave without their clothes, basically. If they like you a little bit, they're still going to push you to your limit, to your absolute limit. And they pushed Terry, and he would not give up. He never stopped. He grinded. He did all the Hindu squats. He did all the push-ups. And I'm talking about 5 sets of 100 of each. I'm talking about getting in the ring and wrestling shoot style for 10 minutes straight. Not like MMA, no punching, but hooking and wrestling and amateur wrestling. They loved to start amateur wrestling. And then when Matsuda decided to start hooking, an amateur wrestler puts himself in the most compromised positions for a hooker, because you tight waist somebody, they're going to double wrist lock you. I mean, there's just all kinds of moves, but Terry would never give up. I mean, he's tapped, but I never saw him even come close to crying or quitting. And it was the office really that kind of drove him to leave and then come back. And that's when the ankle story happened. I left and went to Watts's territory. So then Terry had gone up to Panama and brought Eddie up there, beefcake. Anyway, he came back. And Matsuda and him hooked up, and I don't know where it was, whether it was at the Sportatorium or at Matsuda's gym. I think it was at Matsuda's gym. And I guess Matsuda hurt his leg, but I've never seen Terry give up to them, and he went through hell. I mean, out of 100 people probably that came, the 3 summers that I trained, the only 2 that made it, and some left. Danny Spivey left. The other guys left. Scott Hall. I mean, guys couldn't take the beating. It was brutal. And shoot, yeah, he paid the price.
So, Brian, let me ask you that question. On the Dark Side of the Ring, you've been on there a few times, and they had the episode about the Graham family. And, and when I look at these documentaries, I call them a documentary. I try to imagine going in the mind of the wrestler. And I remember listening to you and speaking about how Graham would make you hurt people, right, to get them out. And I was thinking, I was just watching your expressions, and how did you feel about that after you think about it now as an older gentleman, and possibly destroying the dreams of a young man who wants to just be a pro wrestler and actually hurting them when they're, not capable of defending themselves against someone of your level? Tell me what your feelings are about that now.
Well, I guess they're bittersweet. For one thing, I never was overly aggressive with anybody unless they insulted me personally, like Buddy Colt's son-in-law did when he hockered in my face in the ring. Then, he was a big guy, but by then I was used to my space, and he was in my space, and bouncing up and down like Dusty Rhodes. And he had already pushed his, but he told me he pushed his fiance down the stairs and broke her arm, broke his mother's arm. And the guy thought he was a total badass, wanted to match with Dusty Rhodes, really bad. Wanted to match with Dusty Rhodes, thought he could kick Dusty's ass, and so he came to the sport. Buddy brought him to the sportatorium. I mean, everybody was there. I don't know who told him that something. Well, they used to come down a lot, but this seemed like an overkill. But Buddy knew I was pretty upset about that, and the guys bouncing up and down. And we always would start out fair, didn't kick anybody when they came in the ring or anything like that. Ask them if they want to be up or down, or they want to fight. What do you want to do? And then you would tap hands. Well, this guy was bouncing up and down, and so Matsuda said, he's the referee. He said, go. Or before he said he said shake hands, and before that happened, the guy hockered in my face, and so then there was no handshake, and yeah, it was ugly, but I didn't do that to everybody to where they couldn't go to work the next week. It's just that was the way it was. If I didn't do that at the time, then it was just my job, and I was enamored with my business, and I wanted to do whatever it took to be successful. And at that time, that's what it required. And I hope that those people learned to be respectful. Number one, they didn't come like nicely. None of those people came very nicely and politely. They were all smart Alecs that were bar brawlers, and there was never any humbleness to those guys.
Great answer, man. And I get it.
I think so. I totally get it.
You also became close with the great Mike Graham, who eventually took his own life. How did that affect you when that happened?
Wow. I'll never forget it. It was very tragic. And I was close to Mike at the time. Steve Kern was his best friend. And I was probably I was his business. We just started a business together. And he had caught his girlfriend cheating on him. I'm not going to mention his name or anything, but that had really, really, really big time gotten to him, because Mike had been totally honest. And we all know, his dad had killed himself. His son had killed himself. Eddie's dad killed himself. It was a long history of suicide in the family, and it's a tragic thing. And, I speak with his daughter, Nicole, not often enough, but every once in a while, every few months or so. And she's a wonderful, wonderful person, just a supreme. It's what any dad would be proud to have, a daughter like Nicole. So if Mike's upstairs, I'm sure he's smiling right now, along with Steve and Eddie and the rest of the gang. But it was a difficult day. It was in up by Daytona Beach, and she had left this was the story, that she had left, gone to get something to drink. Door opens, boom. Here's a boom. Mike's in his son's cowboy boots, and it was a terrible, terrible day.
Were you angry with him, Brian?
I thought it was selfish. But you never judge a man until you walk 3 moons in his moccasins, as the old Indian proverb goes. So I don't know what demons he was fighting. I don't know what demons were in Mike's head. And, the mind is a powerful, powerful thing. You can either use it for good or evil. It's your choice. And something bad got into Mike. I don't know what he was thinking. Uh, it's just a horrible thing, And I went through litigation with this. I can't get into it on air. Anyway, it was, uh, understanding. You could just get understanding.
Jay Will's asking you out there, did Dick Slater beat up John Matuzak?
I didn't witness that, but that was the rumor. I had heard that. Who could answer that 100% is Steve Kern, who is one of my best friends in the world too. And I don't know why. I guess that's so far back that we're more into current events, or we talk about that. But anyway, that's a great it I can't swear to it. So I didn't see it. And
Brian, why does it feel very believable to me? On the surface, it feels very believable to me that Dick Slater could do that to Matuzak. What's wrong with me?
Absolutely. No, you're right, Jimmy. Hey, brother, you're the Pharaoh's great. You're right, brother. It's
Wow, Jimmy, he is putting you over, boy. I gotta tell you.
I appreciate that. It's better to be put over than to be put under. That's for sure. Oh my God,
that's always
Brian. I'm sorry to stay on the subject, but unfortunately, the Von Erich family, sadly enough, has parallels to the Graham family. Recently, of course, there's been a big buzz about the movie The Iron Claw. Did you get a chance to see it?
3 times.
3 times. What's your take at the end of the day on the movie?
I thought they were too hard on Fritz.
Okay.
And
why too hard on Fritz?
They left Mike out of the story.
That's a ridiculous thing. I agree with that. But why so hard on Fritz? Was Fritz not like that?
I'm gonna tell you something. He was disciplined, but he was never abusive. I mean, I've seen him, almost all the time he had a scotch or whatever, but he was the hottest I've ever seen him is when he found the marijuana field that David and I had grown.
That's great.
Oh, you guys are like Cheech and Chong, huh? Not good. Not good. Go to your room. Go to your room, Brian.
Jimmy,
we actually didn't smoke it. It just Al Madrill told us if we grew it at the time,
you could sell it. You could sell it.
I'm not saying we didn't do that.
Al Madrill from Olympic Auditorium. Al Madrill.
I got to tell you the story. I've never
too good. This is too good.
Al said that he's got this guy that can get rid of, but
right. Brian,
I don't even know how the subject. I don't know how the subject.
I don't know how we got here, but at least you followed rule number 1: never get high on your own supply. Hey,
there you go.
Unbelievable. Well, you saw the movie 3
times.
Wait,
wait, Jimmy, hold on. You're letting them off too fast. So Al tells you to sell it, right? Did you guys start selling it, or Fritz make you rip it up out of the ground and throw it out?
We're not dealing weed.
No. It was like a quick thing. I had a green thumb. And you asked, Brian Adias.
Yes, we've had Brian on the show. Great guy.
Yeah, great guy. Ask Brian. He will testify right now.
Kevin, his web's getting bigger.
They were like trees, brother. Like trees. I had never grown that before. I had never grown that. And Kevin left.
Oh my God.
Carrie's left a bright yellow water hose from Carrie's house. Kevin, yes, Kevin, who's in Texas.
Mike, he's my hero.
I love Kevin.
I got to ask this before you go on, Jimmy. The one question is, at some point, did Doris finally blame Fritz for all that went on with the family? Did she blame him like the movie kind of portrays at the end?
Yes. I mean, I wasn't there, but I could tell, that she was very upset. Fritz, Jack. But Doris was a wonderful lady, guys. I mean, the salt of the earth. the salt of the earth. Not only, I mean, every night she would have dinner prepared when we'd come home. It was on the stove in the house, just perfect. She would talk so eloquently about just such a wide variety of subjects. She was so knowledgeable. She was such a lady. It was like an amazing, amazing woman. She has to be, to raise these children, to go through the suffering that she's already gone through. Her first son, Jackie, got electrocuted in the pool, before Kevin. Um, so she's been around the block. And I mean, her way of raising children was obviously different than Jack's way. Kids don't come with instructions. They don't. It's one of the most difficult things to do. Think about all us guys, what we did and snuck and did, and oh my gosh, our poor parents worried their butts off. Or if we were fortunate enough to have parents, and I don't mean to insult anybody that doesn't have them, because I know there's people out there. My parents were divorced when I was 13, and now I got them both here at my house.
Love it, love it.
It's amazing, and not together, obviously, but anyway. Yeah, well, Doris was great. So,
Brian, coming from, growing up on the East Coast, we didn't always have television access. As cable grew over the years, yes, we would get Georgia, we'd get Florida, and eventually we got Texas. And there was always a splash of California wrestling on the Spanish UHF channels. If I'm not dating myself at this point, I don't know when that will happen. But David, growing up as an East Coast guy, I lived vicariously through the magazines, and I loved David. David was my favorite Von Erich. His passing, obviously tragic. Over the years, we've as fans, we've always heard he was going to be the guy, and I felt that he was going to be the guy, that he was world championship material, and was on a trajectory that didn't suggest anything less. Do you agree with that? Was David heading to the top of the mountain before, he was taken?
100%. You're 100% correct, Jimmy. He was penciled in. I mean, he was supposed to be at the stadium show where Kerry wrestled. Blair.
So the belt was intended to go to David if David had lived.
I believe that it would have. Of course, I wouldn't know. The only people that would know 100% would be Fritz, and at that time would be Sam Muchnick, I guess. He's still just the NWA, the guys that run the heads of the territory. They say they're the ones that have the say, and they generally there was a dirt sheet then. But yeah, I think Dave Meltzer had the dirt sheet. And I love Dave. I think he's a creative, wonderful. I think he's a creative genius, actually.
That makes one of us.
Yeah. I mean, he's made a ton of money, but look how much money the guy's made. That's the game, guys.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah. Oh, no doubt.
What's Dave worth? 100 million?
God only knows. Brian, did it bother you the way they glossed over the title change in the movie? Because to me, isn't that the pinnacle of the family? That's their goal. They wanted to. Fritz clearly, at least in the movie, he wanted one of his boys to get to where he was always being kept back from, the very top of the mountain. And Kerry gets there, and it's glossed over in the film. Do you have any issue with that? I did, but was it just a production thing because they couldn't afford to pull off a huge stadium kind of feel? What is it?
I honestly can't answer that.
Well, how'd you feel about it when you saw it?
I was so engrossed by the whole thing, honestly, Jimmy. I was, trying to pick up, every piece, and my mind was just going back to so many memories.
Sure.
And each time I watched it, it would make me think of something else. When we're on the horses, we were on horses. All David, Kerry. Oh gosh darn, man.
Does the film get better for you each time you see it?
Uh, um, yeah, I mean, well, I saw it. I went to the movies first time and saw it. Then I saw it on two plane rides,
Mm.
and I enjoyed all three times. I mean, when you know somebody, family, the entire family, like I was fortunate enough to get to know them over such a long period of time, well, almost a year and a half. You really get to be like family, and you understand the inner workings. They're all Fritz. Fritz would always leave $100 bill in every vehicle in the glove box. He gave me $100 bill in every one of my checks every single week.
Wow.
He gave me an extra $100 bill.
Mm.
How many people he did that to? I don't know, but he did it to me every single week, and payoffs were fair, and I wasn't. They wouldn't take a dime rent. David wouldn't take a nickel rent. They treated me like a brother, and I'll be forever grateful for that. I had my Great Dane there.
That's great.
At David's
Mm.
house, Bo, for the whole time. It's fantastic.
Brian, let me ask you this. We've had plethora of guys from WCCW. In the Von Erichs, I'm a huge fan. When I saw the movie in the theater, I wasn't very happy with it. I thought it was too much wrestling. But now that it's on Max, like you, I watch it over and over again, trying to get new stuff. But I'm going to ask you, and I'm not that you know, or maybe you do. Did David really pass away from an abrasion, or was it a drug overdose?
I honestly couldn't tell you, because I know that he had medication in him, but he also had a bleeding, an infection. I I I know that David would not intentionally kill himself. He had way too much going for him. He was a happy guy. He was a fun guy. I don't care. He learned to be such a good heel, guys. Oh, I only wish that the match that I had with him in Robards Arena in Sarasota was on tape. And whoever has the Florida collection, it could be. I've just never seen it, but it was one of my. I just enjoyed that match unbelievably. I mean, it stands out in my mind as one of the best matches that I've ever had.
Mm.
That's. I mean, I've had some tremendous
And
matches.
you've had
Jimmy
some.
Garvin and oh God, just so many people. The guy, such an underrated talent, ravishing Rick Rude. I mean, main eventing places just packed, and just enjoying it, having the people just eat out of your hands. But David could make him. He was a great heel, man.
We're getting tight on time, Brian, and I got to tell you, thanks again for being on the show. We're gonna make a hard question again. We all know about Vince McMahon and Janelle Grant, the issues going on there. What is Brian Blair's opinion about that situation?
Oh, well, I mean, I don't have a favorable opinion, obviously, of it. Who knows? Everybody's entitled to their day in court. There's a judge, and you're judged by your peers, and we'll see. We'll see. I mean, it doesn't sound nice. That's for sure.
Well done. Another hard question. Missy Beefcake, the wife of Brutus Beefcake, she has done a program on our show a few times. We all know about you also on the Dark Side of the Ring Brutus Beefcake episode, where Brutus actually has his face shattered from that accident. Can you tell me about that day? Because one of the stories that was told to me, and again, we're just being told stories, and I'm going to ask you, is that they were done for the day, but I guess you had come with a woman, a girlfriend or something, or I don't know who, and you're like, hey, let's go back out, and that's how that accident happened, because they had to go back out in the water. Is that accurate?
100% false.
Okay.
100% false. My friend Ed Barbara was with his girlfriend there at Mike Hannis's house. Everybody was parasailing all day, and everybody got up. Brutus was the one that was out in the water. There was no stopping. I mean, it just kept on, and she was just the last one in line. And normally, you're supposed to turn a certain way, like to the left of the rope once he says go, and you kind of hold the line and then turn this just in case the person that's on the shore that's running with the parachute behind him, while two people are holding it. I just happen to be one holding it, one end, and sometimes you don't get loft right away, but people were getting loft all day. And for some reason, Eddie let his guard down, turned right in to her. She was trying to lift her legs up, and I saw her knees go bam right into Eddie's face. And he dropped like a potato. I mean, just dropped, disappeared. I ran in the water as fast as I could run and get to him, because he was in almost chest high water here, and he was like under. I grabbed him. He never says thank you. Never. I mean, it's okay. It's okay. They can say whatever they want. This is my version of the truth, and it's the truth. So help me.
No.
And when he came, we got it. The little red-haired guy from the hardware store, I can't think of his name right this second, and I will in a minute. But when I got him about maybe 6-7 feet, where we were standing up, like the other guy came, and we sat him on the shore, and I started patting the back of his head, and I said, "Beefer, beefer, beefer." Try to put my finger in his mouth to get seaweed out, because there's a lot of seaweed right there in the lake. And I said, "Open your mouth, open your mouth." And he said, just like this, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." And I said, "What? Are you okay?" And I'm hitting his back, thinking, is there any water? And I look, I said, "Open your mouth, open your mouth." I look, and his top teeth are sitting on top of his bottom teeth. I've never seen anything like that. His entire skull was fractured up here, and it was, went and called 911. The redhead kid, hardware store. Sorry. Oh, golly, it's got a popular name too. That's why I can't think of it right. Paul Harvey. Whoa. Anyway, that's his name. But
he said hobby is a funny name. Oh, he did he?
Yeah, there you go. That's it.
Yep.
Brian, want to thank you for joining us. You're quite the gentleman. Again, thank you for what you've done for everybody, and God bless you for all you've done. I want to hit you with something called the Pharaoh's final question. I have no idea what he's going to ask you. So, Jimmy, this is an important time, because,
Yep.
Brian means a lot. So let's go.
It is. Well, Brian, if I can make a quick disclaimer on this final question, Mike and I have been doing this. We're in our 7th year. I consider numbers very, very important. We've been fighting a good fight for a long time. So my question is that if I pray on this real hard, you're a phone call away from Terry Blair. Could you have him perhaps, give him a call?
You can't ask that. That question's a no-go. Come on, get a better question.
I mean, it's not a no-go. He can at least consider it.
So it could be live from Ron Congo in New York, right?
Yeah, brother. Yeah. Absolutely, brother. All right. Well, anyway, I tried to get it in.
That was a Joe L question, man. Come on, give him something good.
It was two guys who would love to talk to Hulk Hogan. Anyway, but all right. But I wanted to ask you though, on a serious note.
You guys have such a hot show. I might ask. I will ask him.
See, it never hurts to ask.
I don't know what he. I don't know what he likes.
It never hurts.
He does mostly his own thing. I know that, but. You never know with Terry.
By the way, Brian, we could speak to you for like 8 hours, dude. This could have went on forever.
Gentlemen, Monte The Pharaoh got the best show. You guys got a tremendous show. You always ask great questions. But, honestly, Terry's a super guy. People don't understand the good things he does for people. They just don't. He's an amazing person, and he's been through a lot. And anybody's got to admit, if it wasn't for... He was just one of the ingredients you couldn't have to make wrestling what it is.
Amen.
For sure. But Brian, I wanted to ask you on a serious note. Without your faith, would you have been able to do all the work you do behind the scenes for people with the CAC, or is it just because you see so many difficult, issues come up with people you care about? Is it the faith that drives you at the end of the day to be able to do these things?
I would say absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, God wants us to do good things. I know he does. And I feel good about it. That's part of, me. I've always been, I grew up hard, and I've really just had so much love for people. I mean, I grew up a minority. I was in Gary, Indiana. I just grew up, where you could have gone either way. I could have either been like a lot of my friends that back then, half of them are dead, or thank God my parents moved to Florida. It's the greatest thing they ever did, so I think God was watching over me. I've been tried to be a good person all my life. I've tried to be a good person. I've never done anything evil or diabolical other than when I grabbed a cat when I was like 7 years old and I yanked his tail and started swirling him around. And I think that's the worst thing I ever did. And I'm sorry
That's
for
terrible.
all the cat lovers out there.
That's mean.
I was only 7. Oh,
wow. I liked you up until now. What are you doing?
Brian,
I'm saying that's the most evil thing I've ever done in my life.
I've got to recommend people to listen to Brian Blair. And Brian, you ever written a book?
Yes, I have. Thanks for asking. Truth be told. Whoa. Just happen to have a copy right here. You're available on Amazon. And I promise, you get a copy of this book, you'll like it. It's got 5 stars.
I'll be ordering that tomorrow, reading it on, well, it's raining here in New York over the weekend, but the next sunny time, to the beach. Brian Blair, not only were you an all-time great professional wrestling, successful in your career, you are a successful human being, one of our favorite human beings, and I can't say it enough. It's an honor that you even give us the time to grace us, and thank you again, Mr. Blair.
Thank you guys so much. It's my pleasure to be on your show, Monte the Pharaoh. My hat's off to you. Sometime I would love to make my case why the Killer Bees should be in the WWE Hall of Fame. But until then, I love you guys. God bless you. Thank you so very much.
Jimmy, send us out, brother.
You've been watching Monte and the Pharaoh with B. Brian Blair. And yep, they should be in the Hall of Fame. Until next time, later.